to Yah, maker of heaven and earth, the lifter up of my head. I just want to thank him because of his goodness and because of his steadfastness, his mercy, which continues to endure. I love him, I love him, I love him. And I praise him because he's my teacher and because he continues to connect things for me, mend the broken places, reconcile things, rebuke things. And I know that he's my father because he chastises me. I know I'm not a bastard because I get dealt with. So I praise him for rescuing me from the kingdom of darkness, translating me into the kingdom of his dear son, my elder brother, Yeshua, who is the firstborn of many brethren, the first and the last, how they say, the Alpha and Omega, which means the beginning and the end. And I just thank him and I bless him because of his goodness. Also, I bless him because of you. Any of you who ever sporadically or faithfully tune in and get something from what he's sharing with me during my commute and my ramblings, I thank him for you, and I just ask that he would multiply blessings upon you, that his grace will be multiplied in you, that the spirit of wisdom and revelation would just fill you up, so that your eyes, the eyes of your understanding would be enlightened, so that you can know more of the depth, width, the height, the length of the love that he has for you and for his people, and what he wants to do in you and through you as you fellowship with him. That is my salute, my greeting to you today. My good tidings. I pray that we recognize that when kingdom people speak, that we should not only speak vain words, but we should speak with intention, knowing that we have the ability to transfer that which we intend, the power of our intention, to the next person when we speak by faith. So I'm fully convinced and persuaded that you will expand in a greater level of understanding and wisdom as you seek the Lord out in all of your endeavors. With that being said, let me just speak on what I'm speaking on today. And I just want to talk a little bit about the operation of your gift and how it's like living tissue. The operation of your gift is almost like living tissue, because if you think about muscle memory and cell memory and all that kind of stuff, the more that you exercise it, the more that you utilize it, you have blood flowing to that and you have energy flowing to that, so that your exercising or your operations would be on the top level. So whatever you give attention to, whatever you prioritize, whatever you practice, whatever you operate, that's what's going to get the blood flow. That's what's going to get the flow. And you can become very proficient in your gift by paying attention to it and by exercising it. Now, I know that there are some people who still believe that prophecy, operating in healing, those things cannot be practiced, because what they are pointing to is that when it says the Spirit will give severally as he wills, and somehow they interpret from that is that, say in a meeting or whenever God wants to move, he's going to randomly choose whatever saint might be, in tune at that time, or might be, in the flow, and use them to do a miracle or use them to do healing. And some people just think that because it says as he wills, he'll severally give as he wills, that as he wills is random and sporadic. But that as he wills is really dealing with who he determined to give the gift to, not who he determined to bless with the gift. So in other words, that as he wills is talking about he's going to give these gifts to different people so that they would be stewards of these gifts, so that they can operate these gifts and bless his church. Not, who does he will to heal today? Because he wills for all men to be saved, and he wills for all men to be healed and made whole and complete. That's what he wills. So as he wills is dealing with who he has given stewardship of the gift to. That's what that's talking about. And that's according to his divine purposes and his divine knowledge. So we have been given gifts that we can exercise, we can operate in. And those things are for the benefit of the body, but it's also for the benefit of the world. But it's up to us to practice it, to be edified in it, and to, I don't want to say master because, well, I do want to say master, because even a master continually grows. But to become excellent in the operation of our gifting, and that comes by exercising. You can practice your gift. You can practice spiritual gifts. If someone has a gift of healing, or someone flows in the gift of healing, we say that. You don't want to claim that we possess it. So let me just say somebody who flows in the gift of healing, right? So what you can do in order to practice in that, if you already know the Lord has used you in that on more than one occasion, what you can do is whenever somebody has a headache, and whenever somebody has something going on in their back, whenever somebody has something going on with their ear aches or whatever, you can practice addressing it every time you hear about it. Whether it's laying hands on them, or whether it's praying for them, or whether it's speaking faith to them. Whatever the case may be, you practice it by addressing it. You practice it by saying, on my watch, if these things come across my path and among the people that I'm around, then I'm going to take the responsibility. This is one of the ways you can practice your gift and exercise it, is by taking responsibility for anything that comes on your watch, through your doors, through your office, so to speak, and say, I'll go ahead and handle it. So you just pray. If you lay hands on them, you just lay hands on them and say, we tell them, we're just going to pray that, first of all, we have to understand Christ is the healer. I'm a vessel. But you also need to have faith. Do you have faith to believe? The person says, yeah, I have faith. Okay, well, we're just going to link up together and believe that the Lord will accelerate the healing process and heal you right now. Right? So what if you do that and nothing happens? If you do that and nothing happens, it doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes you have to go again and say, come on, let's go again. You can if you have time, take some time to labor there until they see a change. And then what you want to do is tell them to, move around and exercise that part of their body and see if it's lifted up. And if it still hasn't lifted up, a lot of times it will, but it still hasn't lifted up, then what you can do is just tell them to keep on, confessing their healing and thanking the Lord for healing them, and keep exercising that thing, and then let you know whenever it has subsided, whenever it has gone away. It's one way that you can practice healing. And some of it may have to do with their faith, some of it may have to do with your faith, but a lot of it has to do with wisdom. See, sometimes there's nothing wrong with the gift working, but it has to do with wisdom. Sometimes we add presumption to things, and we don't have the wisdom to go along with the power. And so we don't see success. And we are growing. We're growing in that. Remember when the apostles were trying to cast out, I think they were trying to bring healing. Oh no, they were trying to cast out a demon. And he says, these kind come out by prayer and fasting. So there was a wisdom connected to that Christ was giving them. But he says you have little faith. Because your gift works. There's nothing wrong with your gift. So either it's a faith problem, and in that case it was a faith and wisdom problem, because understand faith works by love, but it also operates with wisdom. So a lot of times we need to have the wisdom to go along with the ability so that the gift can work properly. So if that's a healing thing, then you do that. And then when other people don't understand, sometimes God will give certain people, a particular healing ministry that only deals with certain body parts. It's probably because of their measure of faith. So they might be able to deal with back pains, deal with migraines, deal with something that goes on with the limbs or whatever, but they may not be able to necessarily, they might be out of range or out of boundary for them to deal with the psychological things or the mental health. That might be another flow, somebody else's flow. And it could be, all of that. Now that part could be more diverse. But guess what I'm saying is, just because God uses you to flow in healing in particular things doesn't mean you can just go run through the hospital. Because a lot of people ask this question being facetious or being sarcastic, being critical. Well, if you operate in the gift of healing, how come you don't just go through the hospital and just heal everybody? Well, because it doesn't work like that. First of all, there has to be a hunger for the people who want to be healed. And then there also has to be an element of maturity, an element of wisdom, the person that's being used to be able to know how to flow in various kinds. Because understand this, with every sickness, there are different reasons for the sickness. Some of it is connected to sin. So some people are sick because of sin. So you can't just go and just heal them, because sometimes the reason why the sickness is there is because they have unconfessed sin. And then there are other people who have sickness because of demonic activity. So you just can't go in there and just heal them without casting out a demon. So some people's sickness are demonic manifestations. All right. And then another reason why is probably maybe because you don't have the wisdom to know what it is they actually need prayer for. So sometimes somebody might say, I'm having back problems, and we pray for their back, but that's not the root of the sickness. That's not the root of the problem. It might be dehydration that's just manifested in the back. Right? So sometimes people don't get healed because they don't have because there's a lack of wisdom that go along with the power. But you can exercise your gift. You can exercise your gift. That's an example dealing with healing. Another example is prophecy. You can exercise prophecy and become more proficient in prophesying. Somebody says, well, how can I exercise saying what God said? Either he said it or he didn't. But there are many things that he said in the Bible that we can start out with declaring what he has already spoken. That is a form of prophecy. It's called forthtelling, where you declare what he has already spoken, but you still have to know how to apply what he said to the right situation. So prophecy is more than about just saying what God said. It's saying a word in season that fits the issue that needs to be addressed at the time. So you need to have the right word for the right condition. So it's a medical thing. It's a medical thing. You bring in healing. You bring in surgical precision. You got to be surgical about it. So sometimes people don't flow in prophecy because they don't know the word enough to know what should be spoken to that situation. That's one of the things that happens. But another thing that happens is whenever we're prophesying, because people don't know dispensations and don't know the time frame we live in, they apply old covenant theology or old covenant remedies for new covenant situations. Now, we understand that God's word doesn't change and his law is eternal, but I'm talking about things that are dispensational. I'm talking about things that have gone away. God is not going to tell anybody in this time. Yahweh is not going to say, oh, go ahead and kill a fatted calf for the issue. He's not going to do that. He's not going to do that because that's already been done. Certain things have just been done already. So sometimes people miss it because they're operating theologically off the wrong premise. And so therefore they can't prophesy accurately. So prophecy, the gift of prophecy, is more than about saying, but it's also about what you know. It's more than about seeing, but it's also about what you interpret from what you see. Because you can see something, but what does it mean? So it's about interpretation. It's about revelation. So, and that's a good point, because revelation is technically a different thing than even prophecy, than simple prophecy. Sometimes people's prophecies are off because they don't know how to distinguish between inspiration, motivation, and revelation. And all these are things that can be learned. And that's why I say it's important for people to understand you can go to school and learn about your gift. It's not just about if you're really supernaturally gifted, then God will just tell you what to do. No, He's going to put you in school. He's going to put you in school so that you can learn how to flow in it. You can learn the ins and out of it. Even if it's a scribal gifting that you operate in. If you operate in the scribal office, there with every office there is a school attached to it because it's connected to an institution. And there can be no valid or no permanent institution, even if it's heavenly, if there is no schooling or education process to go along with that to perfect and to standardize that which is being done, so that there can be some kind of safety and security amongst the citizens. We can know when somebody's off and when they're not off, when they're on point. And then plus, a lot of the schooling is not just about the gift. The schooling is about our maturity in handling the gift. People need to be schooled on how to handle the Lord using them constantly. So that requires schooling and training. That's why He would tell you to practice. Because you need to practice how to handle your emotions when you have been praying for somebody all night and they don't get healed and they die. Because for some people, that would just take them out of the healing ministry altogether. You said I had a healing gift. I was praying for my friend, and they ended up dying anyway. And they would vacate the ministry because of being disappointed. So we have to be able to deal with the pressures of knowing everybody's not always going to receive the gift. Even Christ, when He went to heal the man, when He healed him the first, when he laid hands on him the first time, He said, "What do you see?" Told him to wash his eyes. "What do you see?" "I see men as trees." So the blind man did not receive full manifestation of healing the first time. Now we're dealing with Christ now. He said, go do it again. Go wash again. He came back and He saw men as they were. But the first time He saw men as trees, which lets us know that there are levels and dimensions, and it's not always full manifestation all at one time. But people need to be taught that, because if they're not taught that, and if they don't learn that in experience, then they're going to be disappointed. They're going to then begin to start speaking against what God told them to be, and then talk themselves right out of the gifting, ministry, and office they're called to. So yes, gifts are like living tissue. They can be exercised. They can be worked. The more you exercise and operate in the gift, the more power and strength, the more muscle you have in it. I'm going to say this last thing before I break. When I first started doing these video joints, I was definitely nervous. I was more nervous than I get now. I'm like, man, I'm live. I'm going live. The whole world could possibly hear me. I can do something real stupid and it can go viral. Right? So you get apprehensive just because you think the worst. Right? But those things, even if I did do something stupid and it was viral, I would just laugh at it now because I understand purpose. But what this thing has done, just by repetition, is it's basically solidified the type of flow that I needed to do on here. That came by virtue of exercising, by virtue of just doing it. You can't get around being nervous about starting things. You're going to be nervous, but you just do it anyway, and do it and do it and do it because you believe God told you to do it, because there's purpose in it. And at a certain point in time, you'll start seeing that everything will start clicking, and you'll start flowing the way you need to flow, and it's all good. You know what I'm saying? And you mature. Your gift begins to get definition, muscle. It gets chiseled. You get chiseled in the spirit. Right? This happens with every gift. With everything that he's given us, there's an operation that's attached to the gift that can be exercised. There's a function that can be exercised. If you don't utilize it, if you don't move it, then the flow is going to go to something else that you're using. The flow is going to flow to something else. It's still there, but it's going to be dormant. It's going to get rusty. It's like, if you have cell memory, if you have your body, you used to be pretty nice and fit, and you stop doing that, that cell memory is in there. It's there. But you don't see it because it's covered up by the fat. It's just covered up. So those things can be done. And so if you used to prophesy, if you used to lay hands on people, if you used to, speak in tongues in the congregation, or if you used to be an operator who would interpret tongues, if you used to, operate in interpreting dreams, or whatever the case may be, if you used to flow in that thing, or operate in the gift of faith, crazy faith, you can actually just start back by having faith, saying, I'm going to have faith for this small thing, build it back up, and get back to where you need to be. Because really, it's not just about what God has done, it's about us being stewards over what he's given us. And if we stop stewarding over it, or if we just let it rest, then it's there, but we're not going to see it. Then we're going to blame God and say that, he's not using us like that no more. No, it's not that he's not using us. We have redirected our focus and energy to something else. But yeah, it's a long one today, but hopefully you enjoy it. Grace and peace.